Eskom is unfixable. Its days of providing affordable, reliable electricity are over. Its glory days are long gone, and people should forget about affordable electricity that is always available. Those were the parting words of former Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter. And yet, here we are now, just over 150 days without any load shedding. And by all accounts, our power utility has made a remarkable turnaround, ending the frustrations of millions of South Africans. And the man perhaps most directly responsible for that turnaround is the Eskom Group Executive for Generation, an unsung hero in my book, Bheki Nxumalo, who joins us now. A very good morning to you, and thank you for your time.
Very good morning to you, Bongani, and to your listeners, and thank you for having me on your station today.
In 1990, Eskom provided more than half of the continent's electricity. As late as 2001, it won the Global Power Company of the Year. Electricity was relatively affordable. It was certainly reliable. Can we get back to those heady days?
Thank you very much, Bongani, for that question. I think what you've just painted now, it gave us the hope, because most of us who were there those years that you are counting, we are still here in the company. So we know how it feels to have this company performing at that level. So certainly, obviously, in terms of the trajectory of the cost, is something that is of concern for us. But in terms of performance, we are definitely looking forward to getting to those levels where we becomes one of the respectable utilities, especially here in the continent. And I must say, I'm quite encouraged with the spirit that I'm seeing in the teams across all our power stations. So it certainly shows that we can actually reclaim our positions within the utilities that are doing very well. Thank you very much, Bongani.
Your rightful place. I'll come back to the issue of cost in a moment. South Africans, of course, are all too familiar with the nightmare of load shedding. As I said in my introduction, 150 plus days without the power interruptions. This turnaround has been remarkable. What do you put it to?
Yeah, I think it's three things that I can attribute it to, Bongani. I think firstly, maybe let me start by also acknowledging that the load shedding has been very bad for all South Africans, and we profusely apologize for that. And then also for us as Eskom, and I know that how it hurt our employees as well, because we are also, apart from being Eskom, we get affected by the same. So I think the first thing that you will recall, we're always saying there is a plan that we presented to board, and then it got approved by the board in March last year. So that is the plan that we said as a team, that if we believe this is the plan, that's what we must work on. And that's what we've been working. You will see that plan has not changed. Our storyline is the same. I mean, I was indicating to the team that, anyone on my team now can go and present that plan, because it's exactly the same story and we're working on it. The second thing is the issue of leadership. I think the plan on its own really won't give you much results. It's leadership across all levels, and then the leaders must also know that they've got support, firstly, from myself. When they make decisions, sometimes they will make mistakes, but it doesn't mean that the mistake need to be punished. So when people are free to make, to take decisions, they get innovative, and then they work towards and then the last point is actually our workforce. Without our employees, we cannot achieve anything. I mean, I remember sitting with the trade unions together with management, and we all committed to say this situation is not right. We all need to pull together, trade unions, all our employees. And those are the three fundamental things as well that turn it around, Bongani. Thank you.
Bheki, we've been lulled into a false sense of security before, but only to find out later that little maintenance was being done. We were burning diesel, and of course, we all paid a heavy price later. Is the nightmare over?
Look, I think the situation is a bit different. I think the maintenance that sometimes we always also confuse the maintenance. We've always done maintenance as Eskom, but what was lacking is what they call it abnormal maintenance, the upgrades, to the newest technologies and those things. But there was never a year where we never done maintenance within Eskom. So, but with what is happening now, the confidence that our power station teams are developing, I think we are on the right path. All the vital signs for success are there. I mean, I normally refer to our worst performing plant in the past 3-4 years to Tuga power stations. I mean, it's nice to see them operating from the 15% to 20%. Now they are over 60%, and they are consistent there. And then the rest of the fleet is really, I can now pinpoint one station that is holding the fleet as well. So,
Right.
so that for me is quite encouraging.
How much have renewables been a factor in helping us to get here? I would imagine there's less demand as more businesses and households generate their own power.
Yeah, I think what is that question, thank you for that. It's always come up, that question. You see the renewables, like now, if we are here in Gauteng, it's a sunny days, you will get a lot of sun during the day. But the key issue for South African economy is the peak time, coming 5 o'clock in the evening to after 8. That is when you can see, if we can monitor that to say how much then we get. Our currently renewables, the problem is not dispatchable. Wind does assist during the peak, but obviously during the day we still also need the renewables in terms of the solar PVs, but the really crux is that South African economy needs some levels of base load as well. That's what is the key. That's why the performance of the coal plant and the reductions of breakdown was critical. Although renewables, we need to also have some storage with renewables. That's what will assist us.
All right. So then do you agree with what Andre de Ruyter urged government to do? He said, avoid sinking too much money into the coal-fired power stations, but to focus on renewables. Is that something you agree with?
No, not entirely, Bongani. I think if you look at it, I'm sure you've seen the numbers we presented. Just on the coal fleet itself, we clawed back from May last year to now over 7 gigawatts. They say 7,000 megawatts. That's what we clawed back by focusing on the coal fleet. And if you look at that, if you have to do an investment to get 7 gigawatts, it will be over 200 billion. So I don't entirely agree with that. I think the focus is that it's not that Eskom is not fixable. I think we have proven that now. The plant is fixable. And then renewables, we must do them within that, not doing it while we are neglecting the current fleet, because that makes the country very, very difficult to manage as well, and everyone gets frustrated. So I think we need to do both. Yeah.
Bheki, you've said in other interviews that you literally grew up in Eskom. You would know how passionate and dedicated many of its workers have always been. When the picture painted in the public about workers at Eskom was that there was corruption, there was incompetence, even things like sabotage, when we were told about syndicates operating within Eskom, so much so that it became necessary to post soldiers outside of power stations, how did that make you feel?
Yeah, it's very hurting, Bongani, and not only to me. I mean, that is one thing that the employees across generation told me when I returned last year. They said, Bheki, if there's one thing you need to do for us, we are not thieves here. There are those that amongst us are doing wrong things, deal with those ones. But you can never label all of us as, and that speaks to myself as well. I mean, that blanket approach, blaming of ourselves and employees, it was not correct. And I think that's one of the things I said to board, to the ministers, that I will not take this position if that's going to happen, to be treated, our employees called thieves, corrupt. Yes, I give in, there are those that are corrupt. Yes, they might still be there, but let's deal with those ones. And then there's a lot, majority of our employees are really committed, South Africans, committed to this company. And I've given that assurance to our employees. And I've stood by that because luckily I know most of them. That there's a lot of our loyal employees who really have never stolen anything from this company, but are here to serve with whatever they can, based on their abilities. Yeah, thanks, man.
We mentioned renewables. With that reduction in demand, how much is it a potential threat in terms of revenue for Eskom? And will it then, in a way, make electricity become more expensive for those who rely solely on Eskom?
Yeah, I think the thing, maybe what we need to do, Bongani, Eskom, if you put all the current mix, the Eskom cost is still the lowest as well, even with the current renewables that we're having into the country. And also the good thing now, and that was one of the things that was also creating frustration for the employees, is that we were at some point becoming bystanders on this. So now we are happy. The board has now approved that we will participate on renewables. And I must also indicate that we've got our own renewables already as Eskom. In terms of the clean energy in this country, we are still the biggest producer of clean energy. If you look at Quebec, our hydro stations and pumps, hydro stations.
Sure. But ultimately, if a lot of South Africans start being able to generate their own power without Eskom, it surely then means, from a revenue point of view, that's a threat to Eskom in the long run. And for those who rely only on Eskom, electricity will become more expensive.
Yeah, it is a threat. We are working on that, Bongani. I think because also it means that a lot of people will have to have that investment that they will put. But there's still the good thing with us as Eskom is not only about profit. We've got some social mandate as well that government has put into us, because not everyone can afford to do that. And I still believe that in the long run, like I said, if you look at South African economy, there is a baseload of over 20,000 megawatts that is required. And I don't foresee that, without Eskom playing a major part into that picture, that there is a threat into the revenue, I agree, but we are working on a lot of innovative ways as well to try and work to capture the markets that we have with our long-term approach and with our footprint in the country. We've got a chance to compete with those that are coming through here.
Bheki Nxumalo, it's so great when the grown-ups are in charge. Thank you for your interview, and well done to you and the team for this remarkable turnaround that very few of us had any faith would happen as quickly as it has. Bheki Nxumalo is, of course, the Eskom Group Executive for Generation.
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions,
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.